Hello everybody, welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join us to discuss Big Sam stepping down from West Brom. It was already a bit of a will he, won't he in terms of championship discussion and championship narrative ahead of next season. I'll always plead the fifth and say, look, ask me 3 days before kickoff what's going to happen, because a lot will change between now and August the 7th or whatever is the date when everything is kicking off. But I think the idea of people, they were looking across and they were looking at Sheffield United having come down and, okay, there's no manager in there. What are they going to do? End of a cycle. They were looking at Fulham coming down. There's a lot of lone players in there. What are they going to do? But then they were looking at West Brom coming down and thinking, right, West Brom tend to do well in the Championship. Relegated team, year one parachute payment. Sam Allardyce as manager. This looks like a promotion could be on the cards. They could be a hot favourite. And from what we're reading, I think the West Brom higher-ups would have liked Big Sam to stay and probably agreed with us. But, well, I was going to say for whatever reason. I'll tell you exactly why in a minute. Allardyce is not going to stay at West Brom. And now West Brom, like Sheffield United, will come down looking for a new manager. This is not the end of the world, of course. Eddie Howe left Bournemouth last season, didn't he? Jason Tindall came in. Okay, he didn't last the season. Jonathan Woodgate took over. They're in the playoffs. They're 1-0 up, actually. You can watch along with us on Saturday as the playoffs finish off. Of course, Watford, no manager in there. Hayden Mullins was caretaker at the end of the season. And they're promoted as well. So, look, there is form for a new manager coming in. And a couple of the last teams are up and the other ones in the playoff semi-final second leg with a lead. But I'm sure they would have preferred wily old experienced manager like Sam Allardyce confirmed in the dugout right now preparing for next season rather than the job of going and finding somebody else. So this came out late last night, as things tend to this season. There's the club statement. West Brom can confirm Sam Allardyce will step down from his post as head coach. The Baggies boss has released a statement. We'll go to that in a second. Sammy Lee and Robbie Stockdale will also depart. Sporting director Luke Dowling said, Sammy and Robbie came in at a difficult time for the club and worked tirelessly in their efforts to keep the club in the Premier League. Unfortunately, collectively, we were unable to achieve our goal. Blah-de-blah-de-blah. Sam certainly restored pride with a number of resilient displays. Sam, Ken and I have discussed, that's the chief exec, our plans for the future, and we very much hoped to have Sam in charge for next season and beyond. And that was backed up in this statement I'm about to show you. And Allardyce's quite prickly post-match interview. Go and check that out last night after West Brom's game with West Ham. He has a pop at everybody, I think. Has a pop at Michael Antonio and just has a pop at the world, really, for not appreciating him and not understanding him. And yes, it is a bit of a caricature now, but there is some truth in what he says in certain ways. I'll explain more later. So there's Big Sam's statement. West Brom made me a generous offer to stay at the Hawthorns that shows the commitment of an ambitious club. After serious consideration, I've decided not to accept that offer. If I were to stay and achieve promotion next season, the expectation would be for me to continue for at least another season. And sadly, that is not a commitment I feel able to make at this stage of my career. I believe the club now needs stability and continuity, and this would, in my opinion, best be provided by a young, ambitious manager who can get us back to where we should be as an established Premier League club. Must thank the players and staff, in particular Luke Dowling and Ken, for their unwavering commitment to a very difficult challenge during my time. This challenge was made all the more difficult, of course, by the enforced absence of the club's fantastic supporters, some of whom I'm delighted were present for our final home game against West Ham. The club have asked my opinion on the qualities my successor will require, and I've been more than happy to offer my thoughts. Interesting. The search for my replacement starts after the final game of the season. In the meantime, we'll be concentrating. Very interesting that, wasn't it? So, very clear they wanted him to stay. In that interview on Sky, Allardyce did say, they pulled out all the stops. They really, really wanted him to stay. His argument being that it would be essentially a 2-year job, and he just doesn't want to do it. I guess where he is in his career now, and reading between the lines, he didn't say this explicitly, but he thinks he's a Premier League manager, and I suppose he is really, isn't he, Allardyce? Obviously was in the lower divisions earlier in his career, but once he got Bolton up and established them, it has been plenty of Premier League jobs. Surely nobody working now. Maybe Hodgson, I don't know, has had more Premier League gigs there with Bolton and West Ham, Everton, Palace, Blackburn, West Brom. He's just had tons of them now, hasn't he? That one season down with West Ham in the Championship, but he took them straight back up, didn't he, in the playoffs? Yeah, it was only one season down, wasn't it? So really, he is a Premier League manager. I quite like the tone of it. Look, I'm doing you a favour. You need a young, ambitious guy. Be interesting to see who they appoint, if they do take his advice. And what is, of course, said in terms of Allardyce's blueprint for what a West Brom manager should be and, should do, and what their team should look like on the pitch. This is what Allardyce tried to do in his time at West Brom. They did look more viable under Allardyce than they did under Bilic. But too little, too late. It was Diania, Snodgrass, Lonergan as a cover for some keeping problems. Yokuslu and Maitland-Niles. And yeah, they did look like they were kind of in a bit of a no man's land under Bilic. They were neither sort of attacking enough to make a difference and score goals and win games, but not pragmatic enough to stop them losing games. And under Allardyce, and believe me, on the Dearly Departed show, I have looked at every game and analysed every game. The numbers underlying were turning. His style of football always works. If you look, you'll often see a low possession total. You'll see the other team will have more shots invariably, but then you'll look and see how many on target and how many blocks were made, and then you'll look at West Brom's or Allardyce's team's chances, especially in terms of the big chances, and it'll often stack up very easily. He knows what he's doing, Allardyce, and my belief, and you can't prove me wrong because it didn't happen, he wasn't there all season, I think they would have been a lot closer. I'm not saying they definitely would have stayed up if he'd been there all season. I think they would have been a lot closer. The earlier he got there, I think the closer they would have been to surviving, and they looked, in my estimation, far more viable under Allardyce than they did under Bilic. What does the table say? Well, it says under Bilic, 7 points in 13, so 0.53 points per game. They were up against it from then on, weren't they? Under Allardyce, those remaining 24, only 0.79. So look, it wasn't going to be good enough. That 24 games rolled out. You can see basically they're second bottom under Bilic, second bottom under Allardyce, and go figure, second bottom under both, with just Sheffield United below them. But you have to add the extra bit of nuance to say that, yes, those are the actual numbers, but we know the earlier I think he would have come, I think the trend upwards would have then become steeper at some point. Again, we're in a parallel universe here, and ifs, buts and maybes and things that didn't necessarily happen. But I just think, given what I've seen, and in the end, when you do analyse underlying metrics over a long period of time, normally you'll get a period of, okay, this is looking good, and then the results maybe come. And I don't know. That's just my hunch. Hey, maybe they'd have gone down under him all season as well. Who knows? We will never know. What we do know is they are down, West Brom. And what next for the Baggies? They were a mid-table Premier League team, weren't they? Look, 13th, 14th, 10th, and this often happens, doesn't it? Then just in the end, the big drop off the cliff from 10th to 20th and relegation. 2 seasons in the Championship. Darren Moore, Bilic took them up in the first season with a below average total for a promoted team in automatics. Normally 84. He's only 1 point off, isn't he? So boing boing baggies, and yeah, there's a lot of talk about this at the moment in terms of yo-yoing teams and maybe the wealth systems and wealth distribution systems kind of playing into that at the moment, with Fulham bouncing, Norwich bouncing, West Brom bouncing, Watford bouncing in between in these past couple of 3 seasons. So you would think they would be well placed to have another go. My argument is that with the current wealth distribution system, if you come down and you can be a competent team, you don't have to be outstanding. West Brom weren't outstanding under Slaven Bilic. They were competent. They had a good international manager in the dugout and a couple of very good players, and they got over the line in second place. You make that competence will make that advantage count. Teams without that advantage have to be outstanding. Sheffield United or a Leeds, etc., who have kind of, come from the other direction. Basically, there's some odds as of 7:30 a.m. Chris Wilder, yeah, interesting. Derek McInnes, Valerian Ismail, Alex Neil, Maresca, Lampard, Terry. Let's talk about Wilder and Ismail. I'm just going to pick out those two. Obviously, Wilder, up until this season, was the guy, wasn't he? Taking Sheffield United through from League One, 100 points into the Championship, stabilised, promotion, 9th place, and then inertia and fall off and done this season. Very interested to see what happens with his next job, because it did feel like Wilder was an outstanding Sheffield United manager. He's a very good Northampton manager as well, wasn't he, beforehand, to be fair to him. What we need to find out about Chris Wilder is he an outstanding football manager? Which I think he might be. Or was he an outstanding Sheffield United manager? Just got everything going there, understood the place, ex-player, ex-fan, all of that nice stuff. We'll find out if he's an outstanding football manager. And let's be honest, some of that tactical innovation was just brilliant to watch, wasn't it? As Sheffield United went through the Championship. Can he come up with something again if he goes into another Championship club? And he's just a bit now damaged by this horrible season at Sheffield United, and maybe it will be a Championship club, but certainly he's earned the right to get a parachute team at the top of the Championship, as opposed to what Sheffield United were was a team coming up through from League One, weren't they? Valerian Ismail, that's an interesting one, because when we read that thing about Allardyce pointing out possible successors, surely Allardyce will see a bit of himself in Ismail, where it's this young manager in the Championship playing this up and at 'em football, little bit innovative. Sometimes it upsets the other managers, but they're having great success with it. They're in the playoffs, although they're a goal down in their leg. I wonder whether Allardyce might recommend Ismail, and we might see a few clubs make approaches for him if Barnsley cannot make a comeback in their playoff semi-final second leg on Saturday. Going to be very, very interesting. Of course, on that list as well, Alex Neil, who's very experienced in Championship terms at a very young age. I'm sure he'll be in a job at some point soon. And then some big names. Frank Lampard, John Terry. Would John Terry realistically jump from Villa to West Brom? Not so sure. Lampard seems to be short price on Palace. Speaking of Palace, what next for Allardyce? Wonder if you could drop Allardyce straight back into Palace there as well now he's available. Although he was making flirty eyes at Sky TV last night, saying he get me on TV basically. So looks like Big Sam's going to get on TV and wait for a struggling Premier League club in October, November next season. And with that being said, that is my look at Big Sam stepping down. And I feel like I've got to the end of the video and we've got more questions than answers. In terms of answers, Allardyce came in too little, too late. We know that. Regardless of what I say about If he'd been there longer, they would have been closer. That doesn't matter. He wasn't there longer. They didn't get closer. They went down, and now he's gone. It's all done. Those things are all facts that we can deal with. So what I'm interested in hearing from you is what next for West Brom? Who would you like to see as manager? Also, what next for Big Sam? Where would you see him popping up and at what level? And look, if you want to answer my question there, what do you think would have happened if Allardyce had been at West Brom all season? How many more or less points do you think they would have had than the total they got? There we go. Another open job at a championship team. A very desirable job. Next season at West Brom, I'm sure plenty of people will be applying for that one, and we'll know more very soon about who's going to go in there after the Premier League finishes at the weekend. So Big Sam out from West Brom. I've had my say, now you have yours. Get your thoughts in the comments. And it's a big over and out from me. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button, and to be notified every time we upload, ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.